To begin cutting the seat for the baguettes, use a 45-degree heart burr and undercut each of the end caps. Be certain to hold the burr at the correct depth. Generally, in this type of crown, you want the girdle of the stone just above the crossbars. Cut just far enough into each end cap so that the length of the baguette will fit tightly into the crown. You need to be careful not to cut too far under the end caps, because then the stone would be loose in the crown and difficult to tighten. Then use a bud burr to cut straight into the corners. The heart burr cuts a round seat, and you now need to cut the corners to create the straight seat needed for the baguette. Clean out the corner of the end cap, and then cut down to create the line for the pavilion corner. Using the point of the burr, trim out the corner of the crown so that no metal will touch the corner of the diamond. Then use the bud burr straight up and down and cut along the inside of the crown on an angle to remove some of the metal to make room for the pavilion of the baguette. Next, use a flat graver to trim the inside of the crown. With the burr, we rough cut the seat to remove most of the metal. We could have used a graver to cut everything, but that just makes more work with the graver, and it's easier to do the rough cut with the burr, and then go back over it with a flat graver to clean it up. Once the sides are finished, clean the undercut in the end caps. The seat needs to be nice and smooth with no protrusions of metal sticking up that would hit the bottom of the stone and cause the stone to break when tightened. Use the point of the graver to get into the corner to clean them out so that nothing will be hitting the stone on the pavilion side. You want the stone to fit snugly into the seat in the end caps, but not to touch any of the metal anywhere else on the mounting. Using a pair of chain nose pliers, bend one of the end caps out to make room to place the stone into the crown. Then place the stone into the mounting by sticking the small end into the undercut in the end cap and then pushing down on the stone to see if it fits into the seat. Make any corrections needed with a graver before proceeding. With the stone in place, take your chain nose pliers and begin to pull the end cap that was lifted up back into place by pulling it over the end of the stone to secure it. Once it is in place, use a punch and hammer or a hammer handpiece on your flex shaft and hammer the metal down over the end of the baguette. This will smooth out the metal and form it down tight over the stone to keep the stone tight. Hold the stone with your fingernail to keep it from bouncing out as you hammer. Just keep working the metal down, working back and forth so that the metal will be moved over the stone evenly. Keep hammering until the stone is tight and there is no movement in the stone from the hammering. Then go to the end cap on the shank side and hammer it down. You don't need to do much hammering here. You just want to close any gaps in the undercut seat and get the metal down tight onto the stone. To begin cutting the seat for the princess cuts, use a 90-degree heart burr and cut a line down the length of the prong, creating a miniature V-tip prong to pull over the stone. Cut approximately halfway into the prong. and go around the mounting, cutting all 8 prongs which hold the 2 outside diamonds. Then, using a wax stick, place the stone into the crown to see how it fits. It will not fit all the way into the crown at this point because the seat is not completely cut. We are just looking to see if we have cut into the prongs far enough and the cuts all line up with the corner of the diamond. Then, using a flat graver, continue this cut down into the crown. The heart burr will only cut so far, so we need to finish the cut with a flat graver. Then use the flat graver to trim the insides of the under bezel to make sure that no part of the under bezel touches the pavilion of the diamond when it is set. Next, go back to the 90-degree heart burr and cut the seat for the diamond. Be certain to cut into the prong at the exact same height on all 4 prongs. Just cut straight into the prong, creating a round seat. Do not cut all the way across the prong, creating a straight seat, as then there will not be any metal on the sides of the point of the diamond to keep it from slipping out of the prong. Then I use just the point of the heart burr to cut a little divot where the 2 lines intersect, right where the point of the diamond will be, so that the point of the diamond does not touch the metal. This also cleans up the metal between the 2 cuts that we made. We actually cut a cross shape into the prong, and we now want to clean out that metal for the stone to fit in. You could use a bud burr here, but since the heart burr is already in your flux shaft handpiece, it is quicker and easier just to use it. Examine the setting and make sure your seat is cut cleanly in all of the prongs. Once the stone is in place, use a pair of chain nose pliers to begin pulling the outside prongs over the stone. If the stone slips out of the seat, be sure to straighten it and get it back into place before continuing. Bend the outside prongs on both side diamonds over just a little bit to start tightening the stone. Then go to the inside prongs and using a flat graver slide between the center prong and the side prong, pushing the side prongs over the diamond. Make sure the prongs are bending straight over the stone. You want the prong to point directly towards the center of the stone. Use your chain nose pliers to make any adjustment needed. Then grasp the top of the prong and start to push the prong over the stone as you wiggle the prong back and forth a little bit. A slight side-to-side movement on the prong will help you in pushing the prong over the stone. We left the prongs long when we made the mounting so that we have the extra leverage to push them over the stone without a lot of force. It's easy to slip off and damage a stone when you have to push hard on a short prong. Check to make sure that all the prongs are down tight on the stone. Because the prongs are long, they do not need to be in contact with the stone the entire length of the prong. Then use a pair of clippers to cut the extra length off. You could use a fine saw blade to cut these off, but if you're careful, it's quicker to use a pair of fine-tipped end cutters or side cutters and clip the prongs off. Next, use a number 6 cut needle file to shape the prongs. I use a 3-square file that has a safety edge. It has been rubbed on a sharpening stone to remove the teeth from the edge so that it will not damage the diamond. Take a little bit off the height of the prongs and then round off the ends of each of the prongs. Go around the 4 prongs on both of the side stones and file each of the 8 prongs a little bit at a time. If you work around, doing each prong a little bit at a time, it's easier to keep the prongs even and uniform. If you would completely file one prong before you move on to the next, it would be easy to get the prongs uneven and not shaped the same. The last step in cleaning up the prongs is to use a cup burr. Use a cup burr that will fit over the top of the prongs, but not so large that it hits the diamond. Then, using a slow speed and lots of lubricant, just roll the cup burr around on the end of the prong. This rounds off the prong and assures us that all 8 prongs are exactly the same size. Next, we need to set the center stone. We use the same procedure to set the center stone as we did the side stones. We use a little bit larger heart burr because the stone is larger and also the prongs are larger in diameter. We again cut up and down each of the prongs, creating a 90-degree V shape, cutting about halfway into the prong. Then use the heart burr to cut across the prong. Be certain you're cutting the same height on all 4 of the prongs and at an equal distance above the side diamonds on each of the prongs. Cut straight into the prong, providing a little ledge for the girdle of the diamond to set on and to weaken the prong to make it easier to bend over. Then use the point of the heart burr to cut a little divot for the point of the stone right where the 2 lines cross, as well as to finish cutting the seat. Then place the diamond into the seat and using chain nose pliers start to bend each of the prongs over. Grab the prong at the top and just slightly rock the prong back and forth. Just a little bit of side-to-side movement as we push forward on the pliers. As you begin to get the stone tight, you need to stop and check to make sure that the stone is straight and all 4 prongs are square to the mounting, and make any little adjustment needed at this time before the prongs are down on the stone and the stone is tight. If necessary, we can reach across the mounting with our pliers, placing one jaw below the girdle on the one prong and the other at the top of the opposite prong, and squeeze in on the pliers. This will bend the one prong over the girdle of the stone. Once the prongs are down onto the stone and it is tight, clip off the excess prong. Then, using our number 6 cut needle file, shape the prongs. Work each prong a little bit at a time and go around the mounting, cleaning up each of the 4 prongs, rounding them off, smoothing them out, and getting them to the proper height. Then use a cup burr to finish them off. Now we need to clean up all of our setting work. Use a brown knife edge rubber silicone wheel, which is about as abrasive as a pumice wheel. I like the silicone wheel a little better than pumice wheels because they seem to last longer. Go around the mounting and remove all of the file marks and any of the nicks that may be left from the pliers or any of the other tools that were used. Then use a green silicone wheel, which will leave a nice polish on the prongs. Go over all the prongs and smooth them off. Polish down in between the prongs and the edges of the prongs along the stone. Then go to a hard felt wheel and polish with platinum tripoli. Polish and clean up the entire ring, and then put it in the ultrasonic to remove the tripoli. Then polish the ring on the polishing machine with carrot rouge, and then back to the ultrasonic for final cleaning, and our ring is finished, ready to be delivered to the customer.